Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and welcome to another video where we're going to be covering the often talked about topic of Warhammer being expensive. And we're going to look at it through the lens of pretty much everything from price to size to the rules themselves in game. Anyways, let's get into it. So as we all know, Warhammer fans do lament the cost of their hobby, and it is an expensive hobby. It always has been. But just like everything else, it was always better when we were kids. When I was 11 years old, Warhammer was just so much more affordable and so much better. But Warhammer is one of those hobbies where people tend to take that to heart a lot. They always think that things have gotten that much more expensive. And we're going to see if we can't prove or disprove that. And we're going to compare one of my favorite units from two very different eras of the game, 2nd edition Chaos Space Marines versus 10th edition Chaos Space Marines, to show how, over time, the game philosophy and rules are the major reason why 40k is perceived as being significantly more expensive. Getting into it, we're going to first compare the stats between just a 1v1 of a Chaos Marine back then and a Chaos Marine now, starting with the 2nd edition Marine. The 2nd edition Marine clocked in at an obscene 28 points for a toughness 4, 1 wound infantry that hits on 3s with a 3 plus save. Now, I don't really need to tell you, I don't think, that that is horrendously overcosted. Now, the one thing going in its favor is its bolt gun is improved, and so is its bolt pistol. This was back when short and long range existed, so at short range, what you might call rapid fire range today, they got +1 to hit, and if they didn't move, they got to shoot all their bolt weapons twice. And their bolt weapons had AP1. So up close, they were genuinely good at killing infantry, and they still would be today. But for 28 points, that damage output is laughable. And I'm not really going into melee with this comparison because they had one attack, and it would just be so brutal to compare the 28 point 2nd edition Marine to his 10th edition cousin. And another point against the 2nd edition Marine was he moved at a snail's pace of 4 inches every turn, which also disabled him from shooting twice, and also stopped his squad from shooting heavy weapons and so forth. Now, in 10th edition, for 18 points, so 10 points less, you move 50% faster, you're better durability because you're the same save and twice as many wounds, and the only trade off you have is your bolt gun now shoots has 2 attacks all the time, but it lost its AP. Now, I don't think I really need to tell you that in pretty much every single category, except against very light infantry with a 5 or 6 plus save, the new Chaos Space Marine is better, even lacking the AP. Mainly because you can nearly buy 2 Chaos Space Marines in 10th edition for the cost of 1 Chaos Space Marine in 2nd edition. Regardless, that's sort of to give you a frame of reference as how the game was designed in 2nd edition and how it's designed now. But getting into the more tangible side of things, we're going to be looking at miniatures and prices. Now, this Chaos Space Marine box, which came out in, I believe, 94 or 96, it was in that era. And one thing, the prices are going to change between pounds and USD because finding prices online is surprisingly difficult because of the way GW did their catalogs up until the turn of the century. But regardless, this box, which contained 7 models, plastic arms and metal bodies for the most part, cost $24.99 USD, which is in fact less. No surprise there. But in today's money, that's about $45, and $45 for 3 less guys seems about average, especially considering the fact that the only options you actually got in this kit, aside from the pre-equipped heavy and special weapon, were bolters and bolt pistols. So you're not really getting any options. These are pretty much monopose models. So the price for them is slightly lower than what you'd say, but for what you're getting, I'd say it's actually worse because it's metal. The plastic that's included is so limited that it's basically pointless, and you get a locked loadout. But metal models have always been costed differently, so we're going to look at the first plastic Chaos Space Marines box. Yes, I know that in, I believe it was Space Crusade, they had some upscaled plastic Chaos Space Marines, but we're talking mainline 40k. And these were the first plastic ones, a box of 5, uh, effectively monopose. The thing is, these guys had their heads attached to their bodies already, so they were always looking forward, and they had 2 variations of legs. And then the only weapons included were, again, bolters and bolt pistols. And these guys actually were significantly cheaper, and still would be today. In the 2002 annual catalog, these guys, on mail order, were £6. That's a great price, even considering the fact that they're monopose. But even in today's money, if you wanted to have a squad of 10, you're looking at £25, which is again, that's, £15 cheaper than they are today. But to have any of the options that makes the squad actually threatening in the second edition, rule set, you're going to have to buy blister packs. And to compare the box art squad of 10th edition's guys to these guys, to get the same thing, you're looking at, again, around £40. I believe it's 41 and some change to get the heavy bolter and the melt-a-gun. And even then, it was actually random chance if you mail ordered it, because it was just Chaos Space Marine with assault weapon, which was either a melt-a-gun, a plasma gun, or a flamer. Regardless, that's a whole nother, can of worms. And in contrast, certain things have in fact gotten cheaper over time. Now these two here, classic models, the classic Chaos Space Marine Dreadnought, made entirely of metal by the way, and the old Chaos Terminators, which came in blister packs of 1 at this point. And the Acadia. They were boxed, but I couldn't find a concrete price for them when they were boxed together, so I'm going off of the 2002 catalog. Now, and a 1999 catalog, whereas which I get my USD. In that 99 catalog, to get a box of 5 Terminators was $37.50, which is actually the same price for the Dreadnought. And the Dreadnought was £25 in the UK, which was the same price as buying 5 Terminator blisters. And at a glance, yes, that is cheaper. But in reality, the Terminators, in today's money, would cost about $67 for 5. And the Dreadnought costs a whopping £51, which is actually around $67 today, or $65, which is a pretty big price decrease. To get 5 Terminators today, it's $60. And the Hellbrute, excuse me, the Hellbrute is $60 or £37.50, which is quite a lot lower than the old metal Chaos Dreadnought. As much as I love it, that is just a horrible price for a model that was too difficult to put together and would break if it fell slightly. Again, metal models were a whole different era. I'm sure many of you watching either don't own any metal models, or by the time you came here, they were all phased out of your army. So we've seen this. We've seen that prices have changed slightly for light, like standard infantry. I'd say Chaos Space Marines have gotten proportionally more expensive, given the fact they're about 30-40% bigger and now include options for every loadout, compared to their 1996 cousins. Or not cousins, predecessors. But the main reason that you and many others think that Warhammer has gotten more expensive is because it technically has. Things feel more expensive because your army has become more optimized. Now you may be confused, like what do you mean by that? So the price for a box of 10, or getting 10 Chaos Space Marines, is very similar in the 90s to what it is today. But today you get 180 points in a box. Back then you got 285 points in a box. So that's why things feel more expensive. Instead of making up a sixth of your list with 1 squad of Chaos Space Marines, you're making up more like an eighth. So you may be wondering, why would GW change this? It made things easier, more accessible, etc. You've heard what everyone says about Warhammer being expensive. But I'd say it's just a symptom of people getting better at the game, which happens with every game, by the way. As Warhammer continues to exist, people just naturally get better at it from intuition and otherwise. But instead of just inflating everyone's stats to match their previously insane cost, they changed stats and changed points accordingly. So instead of charging you 28 points for someone that only kills light infantry moderately well, they charge you 18 points for someone who kills light infantry moderately well, but is significantly more durable. Uh, this is, again, to avoid over-centralization. And if you don't know what over-centralization means, it means reducing the impact that the core of the game has to do with winning and making it more so about just what you pick. And you can say that, yes, that does exist today, and it does, with the example here. Chosen are very, very good right now for Chaos Space Marines. But even in 2nd edition, it still did exist because it wasn't universally everything was overcosted. Things like the Space Marine Dreadnought were about 170, 185 points with the equipment you'd want them, and they were insanely cracked. It's not even funny how good they were compared to literally everything else. And especially for their points cost. That's just a natural thing. There will always be things that are better and some things that are worst. But instead of keeping everything overcosted or making everything ridiculously strong, which they have done at points, I know, you don't need to talk my ear off, they decided to go down the route of changing stats and usually reducing points to make things more effective. Because if we're real, a 28-point Space Marine with a bolter would not only never see the tabletop, it would be considered a meme. It would be considered probably the worst unit in the game because they would die to anything. Even las guns have a great chance of killing them. Anyways, I have been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and I will see you all next time.